Chad Fraser.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody coming here. I hope that you will enjoy the pictures and everything that I have for you to talk about. If you have questions, if you see something and you have a question, raise your hand. If it's something that I'm going to talk about, I'll let you know that I'll probably be answering it later. Otherwise, I will answer it the best that I can. And then afterwards, at the end, there'll be enough time if you have more questions about anything that you are curious about. So, a lot of people know what Cirque is. Have any of you seen the show Kurios here in Japan? Oh, excellent. So, some of you will know some of the things I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, we are here for 2 more weeks, and then we'll be in Osaka. But I'll explain all of that stuff as we go along. So, I'm going to be talking about tour life in general, a little bit of everything. So, for today, I'm going to introduce kind of what the company is all about, Cirque Du Soleil. Then I'm going to talk about the specific show, Kurios, and how that a show gets created from the very start until the first time that people see it. Then I will talk about what my role is in the show, so specifically what I do, and then, like I said, we'll have lots of time for any questions that you would have. So, first thing, who am I? My name is Chad. That's me. That's right, so you got the right person here. That's a good start. So, like Chris said, I am the performance medicine head therapist. So I am an athletic trainer. So if you've ever watched soccer or football or anything like that, I'm the medical person that you would see on TV that runs on the field, or baseball when somebody gets hurt. That's what my role is. I started off, I was an athlete myself, and I was always wondering what was going on when my body was sore. So I decided I want to do this for a living. And that's why I studied to do that. And now I am the head therapist of performance medicine. It's really long. It's a long title for Cirque Du Soleil Kurios. So, in all the world, I am from Canada. Have any of you ever been to Canada? Did you like it? Yes? Good, because I don't want people to say no. Canada's beautiful. These are all the things that people think about Canada. Hockey, moose, all little things like that. Now, where I'm from is actually a very little small town all the way on the East Coast in a province called Nova Scotia. Now, my place where I'm from is so small, there are only 4 stoplights in the entire city. So that's really small. Only 2,000 people. And I am in Tokyo. How cool is that? So, how long have I been doing this? Chris mentioned this is my 7th year working in performing arts with Cirque Du Soleil. And he said, I've worked with 2 shows from the very beginning. The first show was called Amaluna. That was a show that has never come to Japan. It was in North America and Europe and South America. And then I decided to change to come to join Kurios from the very beginning. Before that, I used to work in sport. So I did 4 years of a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology, which is just fancy talk for science, studying kinesiology, and I worked 2 years as a student therapist for the teams. So I didn't know everything that I know now, but I was learning how to learning about the body, learning how people hurt themselves. After that, I went down to the United States. Anyone been to the United States before? Great. So I went to the US and I did 2 years, and that's a master's, which is more education after graduating for that, because I wanted to put more information in my brain and get really smart. That was the goal. But I still can't speak Japanese. So maybe by the end of today, maybe I'll know some. We'll see. Fingers crossed, okay? So after that, then I spent 7 years working full-time at a university. So now I was the person that was responsible for a bunch of sports. So these are all the sports that I've worked with at some point in my career. So how many years have I been doing this? 7 plus 2 plus 2. That's 11 years. And all those sports. So the reason why I wanted to do so many sports is because I wanted to learn as much about different parts of the body, and how if somebody hurts their shoulder playing badminton, it's different from somebody throwing a baseball. Okay? So because of all this experience, when I decided that Cirque maybe was a good option for me, that's why Cirque really liked my experience, and that's why it was easy for me, because there were so many different things that I had seen before. So, about the history of the company. You saw the logo at the very beginning. It was nice and pretty and gold. This is what it used to look like. It looked like somebody just drew it with a crayon. But this was all the way back in 1984. I bet a lot of you weren't even close to being born then, right? So, in 1984, these guys here, they went to Hawaii. Has anyone been to Hawaii? Isn't it beautiful? So nice. So, they took their friends and they went to Hawaii to do circus. So, Cirque Du Soleil is French, and it just means Circus of the Sun. And the way they came up with the name was they were doing their thing, and the sun was setting, and they saw the sun setting, and that's why they decided to call themselves Cirque Du Soleil, Circus of the Sun, because it looks so beautiful. So this is a picture of one of the original tents in Montreal. Montreal, Canada, is where Cirque Du Soleil started, and where everything is still located today. So you can see now there's no fence, nothing around to really keep people out. Now we have to have security. So it's a very different time back then. So now this is the main headquarters in Montreal. So this is a huge building where they have meetings, and then all this area here is where they design all the costumes, everything that you see on the stage, and then where we have these really massive studios. So we have 5 studios, all to practice for different parts of the show. So you can see how this is so big. This is probably about 30 meters high, because it needs to be big enough to be able to have any show out there that they might want to use. And every show that they create starts here and then gets moved on to tour, or even if it goes to a theater. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. Oh, sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. 5,000 employees work in this building. That's a lot. You could walk from one end to the other, and it would probably take about 15 minutes just to walk from one end to the other. It's quite big. Don't get lost there. So, there are 3 types of shows with Cirque du Soleil: big top, arena, and resident. So big top is like the big tent that you see here in Japan. So currently there are 6 big top shows. Okay, so Amaluna, that was the one I talked about. And Kuza and Totem are 2 shows that have been here to Japan. So has anyone seen those shows before? So Totem was here just recently, maybe about 2 years ago. And the other shows, this one just came out in 2017, this one just in 2016. So there's a chance that in a few years, one of those might come here as well. So the big top shows are, like I said, the really big, the big tents. Then you have arena shows. Arena shows are only in an area for about a week. Now, in Japan, it's always really long, so you would never get the arena shows other than Michael Jackson. I think there was a Michael Jackson show that came through one time. But Corteo and Ovo, they were both in Japan as well, but that was years ago as well. And now they've been touring so long, now they make them into an arena, so they can go from one city every week, and they can go to smaller cities. And then we have Crystal, and this is a show all on ice, which is kind of cool. And then Turek, if you ever saw Avatar, that's all about that, from that movie. Anyone see Avatar? No? It's okay. And then the last thing is a resident show. So those are permanent shows. And has anyone ever been to Las Vegas? Well, hopefully with mom and dad, not on your own, gambling. So most of these shows, these 7 are in Las Vegas. This one is in Mexico. So these are shows that are always in the exact same spot. So if you asked me or somebody who really loves Cirque du Soleil, the big top is probably the best way to see a Cirque show, because you're always you feel surrounded, like you're surrounding the stage. When you're in an arena, you're so far back because it's such a big space, and same with in a resident show, sometimes you don't feel it's as close. But the good thing about it is that because it's always there, they can do so many different things that they don't have to pick up and move from city to city. So you can do a lot more exciting things with that. So if you ever get a chance, or you ever go to Vegas again, say, Mom, Dad, take me to Cirque du Soleil, I want to see it, because it's beautiful. So, the show Kurios. So this show that is here now, we started in April of 2014. Seems like a long time ago now. So at the time, it was the 30th birthday of the entire company. So they really, really wanted that show to be just really good. They put a lot of pressure on the people that were creating it to deliver a very good show. So, April 2014, we started working on this show in September of 2013. That's 8 months of practicing before anybody sees the show. That seems long, right? The reason why it takes so long is the first 4 months, so September, October, November, December, that is everybody, all the acts that you see, that's them creating the individual acts just on their own. And then the second half, from January until about mid-March, then that's making the show all come together. So it's almost like making a movie. Sometimes you have an idea that you want to try something, and you try it, and it doesn't work. Okay, we're going to do something different. And the big thing is making the show go from one spot to the next, and that's what makes things difficult. And they want it to be something that if they see it, oh, do you think people are going to like this? Yes or no. And we just keep practicing it so that when you pay your money to go and see it, you say, wow, that was amazing. And that's the hope of that. That's why it takes so long. It's difficult for the artists because they're so used to always hearing people clap for what they do. But for 8 months, they have to practice with nobody cheering or doing anything, which can be difficult, especially if you're trying to be funny. Like we have clowns and people that do silly things. If there's nobody to laugh, sometimes they don't know if it's funny. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So for the first few years, we did a North American tour. So these are all the cities that we did. There's only 20 cities here, but we did 21 because they decided to add one right here. This one city decided to show up and say, we want you guys. So we went there for 4 weeks. Most of the time, we're in a city for 6 to 10 weeks. And the reason why it changes is because of how big the city is. So, some of the big ones where we stay for a long time are San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York City, Miami, really big cities. We're there for 10 weeks. Some smaller ones, like small ones in Canada, like Quebec, Washington, D.C., Dallas, we were only there for 6 weeks. Enough to get people to come and enjoy the show, and then we move on to the next one. We usually will do 8 to 10 shows in a week, 120 total employees, and of those employees, 46 of them are artists. Now, the Japan tour. So that's the big top. That's what it looks like set up on Odaiba Island. Now with that one, this is a 17-month tour of 5 cities: Tokyo, Osaka, Nagoya, Fukuoka, and Sendai. We're going to be in Tokyo for 24 weeks. That is a long time to be in one city. And then the next one, Osaka, will be 16 weeks. And then we'll have 8 weeks, 8 weeks for Nagoya, and then 6 and 6 for Fukuoka and Sendai. Now with this, we do 10 shows every week with only 1 day off a week. So no weekend, when you go to school Monday to Friday and you have Saturday, Sunday off, we only have 1 day, which makes people tired, but you do what you have to do. So with the Japan tour, we only have 102 permanent employees. But now we've added 11 artists. We went from 46 to 57. The reason why we add extra artists is because we have so many shows and we can't ever take one of the acts out. So we have to make sure that every part of the show has somebody else that can do it. Which is kind of difficult when you think that there is probably only a handful of people in the entire world that can do some of the things that they do on stage. So it's really difficult to make sure you find somebody that can do all of the things that they do. So of the employees, they're made up of artists, the artistic team, technicians, and tour services. So this is an aerial shot from a drone taken of our site. So I talked about all the areas that we have. So technicians, so those are the people during a show that work with like lighting, the sound, people in the air, anything like that. So this is their little offices right here where they kind of hang out. And then they're always working kind of within the big top. Then we have company management. That's the person who decides where we're going next, if there's any big events that we're doing. As well as travel and lodging. That's somebody that makes sure that we get to have a bus or a plane to the next city, making sure that we have nice apartments where we stay in. They're very busy. And then we have an accountant, anybody that deals with any finances of anything that deals with money. We have somebody that deals with that, as well as insurance. That's boring, we're not going to talk about that. You guys are too young to deal with insurance. You wait till you're older. So they're all in this little office here. And then we have this. Who doesn't like food? Kitchen is fun. So with that, we have 4 full-time chefs that travel with us everywhere. And it's all you can eat. Good time. This is our kitchen. It's pretty amazing. So we have all of our tables set up. And then, so this table right here is what you see here. You see all this beautiful fruit. You can make sandwiches, vegetables, anything like that, which is so nice. And then every day they do all these different hot options. If people are vegetarian, anything you want. And anytime you're on site, you can eat. That's pretty cool. And then we have an espresso machine, cereal. Who likes cereal? Yep, because it's amazing. So anytime you want to have cereal, bread, anything like that, all you can eat. Can you imagine that? And it's really great because when you're away from home all the time, it's good to have something that makes you feel like it's home, knowing you can always go and eat. So I don't want to see you guys sneaking on site trying to eat my food, okay? All right, I know your faces now. I'll be able to recognize you. This is the big top. How beautiful does that look? So I want you to turn to your partner and give me a number of how many seats, how many people you think fit in this big top. I'll give you 30 seconds to talk about it. It won't do any good to count the seats because you don't see them all. Okay, so who wants to be brave and take a guess at how much you think it is? We're going to take three different answers. All right, I saw your hand first. What do you think? Yes?
3,000.
3,000? Okay. What do you think? You think 3,000 too. Does anybody think it's less or more than 3,000?
More.
More? Who thinks maybe less? Less? How many do you think?
I think it's around
500. Okay. So the actual answer is 2,980. So 3,000 was the closest. That's a lot, huh? And then everyone is wrapped all the way around. So you can see how anywhere you sit in here is a beautiful view. And any of you who has seen the show again? So would you agree that it was a really good seat no matter where you were?
Yep.
Very good. Excellent. So some of the cool things about this that's different from in North America. In North America, all of our tents usually have 4 big masts that hold the tent up. But the Fuji Dome is different because it's prepared to take any kind of an earthquake. So we had to kind of change things. So normally you see this little thing, this is where the masts normally would be. And then we have these here. And the masts are very important in our show for a specific reason, and I'll explain that in a second. So this is our grid. So this is where anyone from the show comes in or sometimes go up, and that's about 17 meters from the stage, which is pretty high. Oh, did you have a question?
Were there any people that fell down from there?
No, that would be bad, right? I would have to work more if that happened. I don't want to do that. But no, the artists, they train so much. They're so good at what they do. They're very rarely do we ever have anything bad happen. We're always ready just in case because everybody is human and we all know humans make mistakes sometimes. But that's why I'm there. That's why we have coaches. That's why they train to be as prepared as possible. So we have been very lucky. Nobody has ever fallen like that. So that's a good thing. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that doesn't happen, right? So moving on to the towers that I talked to you about. So we have one particular act in our show, which is called the acronet. And it is like did you see it? So it's like a massive trampoline. So have you ever been, who's been on a trampoline before? Okay. Have you ever been on a trampoline and have somebody else with you that pushes to make you go higher?
Yeah.
So picture a trampoline that is the entire width of the stage, and you have 6 other people making you go high. So during that act, at the highest that they go is we've had them inside this ring, and we've timed how much time they've been in the air, and it's been 4 seconds of being completely weightless. That's a long time to be in the air. It's scary. So because that net takes so much force, they needed to create these to be able to have the force of the net absorbed. When we first started in Montreal and we had the masts, the 4 masts, there was so much force, it was pulling the pavement off of the ground. That's crazy, right? So somebody said, that's a problem. And I said, I agree, that is a problem, we should fix it. So they created these. So have you ever, you know how when the wind blows, how a tree moves like that? So these move with the force, with springs to be able to absorb that force. And really smart people design things like that. I wish I did, because I would be rich. But I didn't design it. But I'm so glad that they were able to create that. They spent a lot of time, when they knew we were coming to Japan, and we knew that we were going to have to get rid of those masts, that was one of the biggest things that they needed to make sure they fixed. And just so that act, when Fuji, the company that decided to bring the show over, the minute they saw that act of Acronet, they said, absolutely, we want this show. It was that exciting. And it's so much fun to watch. So this is at the stage management booth. So this picture I took was taken from that booth looking out. So this is a person, they're kind of like the director in a movie. And they have a microphone and they can talk to everybody. They decide what goes, when everything goes. So these are the things that I wanted to show you, which are pretty cool. So this camera is something that records everything that happens in the show. So we can watch it again if anything happens. This camera is really cool. It's called infrared. Have you ever heard of infrared before? That's heat camera. So when the lights are completely out and it's completely black dark, he can see everything on stage. He can see people moving. It's like being able to see in the dark, like night vision, which is really cool. So they can see when the lights all go out and there's people that have to move to go to a certain spot, he knows when they're ready to then turn the lights back on. And so he's the only person that has a view of that. And then this view, you can see kind of it's a little bit lower. This is the sound person. They're responsible for making sure the music, any sounds that you would hear, is at the right timing. And they have their own little booth as well with a great view. So this thing is really neat. So, do you remember that I said that this show was the 30th anniversary? So because people from Montreal love Cirque du Soleil so much, everything that you see here was things that were in people's attic, garage, storage, things that they never used, that they wanted to give to the show to be able to go along because we were the 30th anniversary of the company. So people love it so much, they just gave things away to make sure that it had something to go along for all those years. Now the stage is built in all these little panels, one at a time. So they start right in the center, and then they build everything all around it. Now this little thing, it's called a turbine. This is the area where our musicians are. So our musicians, they play live instruments and they sing live. That's one of the really, really cool things about Cirque, is that everything you hear is played and sung live. This is a cool thing. So this is one of the things in our show as well. So this is a big hand that is used for 2 parts of the show. So I want you to, again, you're going to talk to your partner and you're going to tell me if you think you know how this, oh, I almost showed you the answer. That was my fault. How you think this moves on stage. So talk to your partner, and then we're going to see what you think. Okay, who wants to be brave and take a guess? Oh, you're so brave. You always have your hand up first. What do you think? Okay, so how do you think that happens?
When the big hands move, like the hands of the fingers.
That's close. You're on the right track. You're on the right track. Does anybody else have a guess? What do you think?
There will be one person in the part that is not at the fingers. So that person controls the hands, so it makes the fingers move.
Oh, somebody. Do you work for the show? Did I not see you? Do you work for us? That's correct. You're right. So, it's like a big go-kart. Okay, so now I took this picture from the very back looking in. So there's a seat here and a seat here. So there's actually two people that are inside underneath. So one person sits here, this is for their feet, and these are handles, and they move it like this. And then it moves forward and backward. Pretty cool, huh? So if you think, they can't really see, not like in a car where you can see a window, so they have to go by feel. So there's two things. They have a headset where somebody can talk to them on the radio, and there's no floor. So we have tape that glows in the dark on the stage. So when they're driving, they're looking down and they know exactly how the arrows go of when to stop. Because they're doing this as well in complete darkness. That's crazy. So, and then like what you said, so this person that sits here, they also have a hand bike and they make the fingers move. So one person is just responsible for going forward, backward, one makes the fingers move. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so now we are going outside of where you see the show, and this is called the artistic tent. So this is a big white tent that's at the back of the big top. Now this is where everybody gets ready for the show and gets warmed up. So this area, we just call it the blue carpet. Why? Because it's blue. So this is where everybody stretches and gets ready for the show. So we have everything that you see in the show gets warmed up and practiced here. The only thing that can't be done specifically to the right size is that big acro net that I've talked about because it's too big. But that's why we have a trampoline here, just so that the guys can get used to bouncing a little bit. But I didn't take the camera back far enough because it's so big. We have a big metal structure that goes across where we can hang things for people to be able to hang as well. This is our gym. So the artists are super strong, super flexible, so we need to be able to do things with them to make sure that they stay that way. So we have elliptical bicycles. This is called a reformer. So Pilates is a way to make things in your core super strong. So we hire a Pilates instructor to come in, and then we have we use this a lot, and these weights for the artists to do things to make their muscles strong. And then anything else, cables, pretty much all of the artists will tell us the type of things that they like to do to get strong, because you might like something different, you might like something different, and you might like something different. So we try to get a little bit of everything so every artist feels happy and comfortable with whatever they want to use to get themselves ready for the show. This area is called tapis rouge, just fancy French. Does anyone speak French? Okay, me neither. Good. So it just means red carpet. Why do we call it a red carpet? Because it's red. Exactly. So this area, this normally would play. Remember that I told you about that camera that records? So it plays on this TV everything that's going on in the show. So the artists, they pretty much just hang out here. They hang out on their phones, and they text, and they're on Instagram, Facebook, just hanging out until they have to go, and then they go in the tunnel on stage, make you guys go, wow, and then they come back and they're texting again. It's true. I'm not lying. It happens all the time. So they can just kind of hang out, and they can see exactly what's going on, and that gets them ready to go for the show. This is the most important board in the entire show. It goes through every act and lets them know who's doing what. So if each of you have a job of what you're supposed to do. It's your responsibility. You go, okay, I'm doing this today or I'm doing that today. So everybody has to know what their job is. So now we're looking back. So this area is called the loges, where the artists get ready. All right, so for the makeup, so you're going to turn to your partner again. You're going to tell me how many makeup artists we have on the show to get all the artists ready for the makeup. 30 seconds. 20. Okay, so if you remember, I said we have 57 artists on this show in Japan. So hands up, who's the first person to take a guess at how many makeup artists we have? I saw your hand first.
30.
30? Okay, there'll be 2 more answers.
20.
20, okay. One more. Oh, at the back?
45.
45. So we have, how many did you say?
30.
30, 20, and 45. So the actual answer is 0. I tricked you. The artists have to do their makeup by themselves. Because for the 45, 20, 30, we would need at least that many to get them ready. And that would cost a lot of money to hire that many extra people. But it's crazy to think that that their makeup is so beautiful, they do it all themselves. So when they start with the company, they are given a binder, a big book, and it's step by step, and they have to practice every day for weeks to do it. And it takes almost 20 to 25 steps to do their makeup. So, because every time when they sweat and they're doing activity, their makeup never runs at all. So they have to do all these specific layers to make sure that when they sweat, it looks beautiful. And sometimes, when they come off stage, they'll take a picture and they'll compare it to what it's supposed to look like. And if it's not nice, they get in trouble. Because that's their job. So every artist has to be really careful to make sure that they're doing a good job. Sorry I tricked you. But I ask that every time, and everybody always says the same numbers that you guys said. So you think just like everybody else. That's very good. So this is our wardrobe area. So we have 4 full-time wardrobe people as well. 1 person who is responsible just for shoes. 1 person responsible just for costumes. 1 responsible just for things from the neck up, any headpieces. And then 1 that oversees all of that. So here's some of the things. So we have this one thing, a headpiece called a mentalist. So we have multiple ones for each person. So a really cool thing that they have in Montreal, they have this really very expensive scanning computer. So you sit in there and it scans your entire head and it creates a model which looks exactly like your skull and your head. And that way, when they have a headpiece for somebody, it fits every individual person perfectly. So when we were first in Montreal, everybody was taking pictures with their own fake skull, and it was really freaky. It looked like somebody was just like made a statue of you. But if they ever need anything, they know that they can send it, and it's going to be a perfect fit. So then we have these fishtails. These are like big foam fishtails where these big Russian guys shake their butts and act like fish. So here, they have all these really old sewing machines. Everything that you see in the show costume-wise is fixed and maintained in our tent. If they need to order something new, it's sent from Montreal, but everything is here. You can see all the different colors of the yarn, every color of any costume, they have to be able to fix it there, which is so cool. Now, look at all these costumes. So this is after a show. Every costume that touches a human skin is hand washed every night. So, there are so many costumes here. These costumes are the contortion costumes. So, another partner thing, how much do you think one of those costumes is worth? Take a guess. 30 seconds. Cost. How much it costs to make it? Okay, so what do we think?
300.
Do you want it? You can give it to me in either yen or dollars. I'm like a bank. I can change anything. Okay, what do you think?
$10,000.
$10,000 US dollars? Okay, do we have a 10,000 US dollars? I feel like I'm at an auction. Do I have any more? At the back.
$10 million.
$10 million? Or yen?
Dollars.
$10 million. All right, that's an expensive one.
0.
0? Free? I wish, if it is. Then we're making a lot of money. Do you have a guess? How much? $2,000 or yen? $2,000. Okay. So, do you want me to give you the real answer in yen or dollars?
Dollars.
Both. Okay. So, in yen, each one of those costs 25 million yen. 250,000 US dollars per one costume. So to give you an idea, we have 4 contortionists on stage at the same time. So that is $1 million in costume on stage. That's crazy. And people say, hey Chad, why is that? Does anyone want to ask me? Ask me why. Good question, I'm glad you asked. So, the reason is, it is completely made specific to their bodies. And if you see the show, when they move in all their contortion positions, there's never wrinkles. Because it's so stretchy and it's perfect for their bodies. As well, it's made of a special material that breathes, so they don't sweat as much. And there's little pieces of glitter that are inside the costume, all over. So when the light shines in it, it looks like they're shiny and glowing. That's nuts. Isn't that crazy? That's a lot of money. So if you have some extra money to give me, feel free and I'll make one. This is another cool costume as well. So, if you've seen the show, this is our character called Mr. Microcosmos. So this is his first half of his costume. So he normally wears another big half like a ball. It looks like it's a little house. So he's wearing a full vest because a person is in here during the show. So this person, so her name is Rima. So she's less than 1 meter tall, only just 3 feet. She's in the top 5 of the smallest people in the world.
Really?
Yeah. And she's been doing this for a long time. So she has her feet here, and she hangs out during one of the acts in here the whole time. So just with this costume, without her in it, that's an extra, you got kilograms? Is that easier for you to understand, or pounds? Kilograms? So this whole costume is about 15 kilograms. And then the weight of her on top. So by the end of every show, he's very sweaty, he's very tired, and his legs get very strong. Every day he has to do that. So when she's in there, she is clipped in almost like she is doing a skydive so that she doesn't fall in there. But there's a light inside and there's a fan. So it keeps her cool, and if she wants to read a book, she can turn on a light. Kind of cool. So then we have these big old robots. Yeah, so this is like mesh, so they can see out of this. And the way that they get in this is they just kind of go in from the back, and there's like these big shoulder pads, and they just stand up, and then they just walk around. And another cool thing, oh, not the water, is mustaches. They use 57 mustaches every day. So because that would get expensive if you just dispose of it and you throw it away every time. So they hire local girls and they pin them. They use a toothbrush, not that they use on their teeth, and they brush it to make it smooth again, and then they reapply a sticky piece of tape so that they can put it back on their face. Every day they do that. So they have 2 girls that spend almost 3 hours every day working on all these mustaches. Isn't that nuts? So you can have a full-time job at Cirque playing with mustaches if you want. So now we're going to my area where I work. So this is called, so remember I said how long it is, performance medicine, blah, blah, blah. We call it PMed. Super easy. So myself and my team, we're responsible for the complete medical care of the artists. And because we go from city to city, we are the few people that our artists trust. They ask me questions about everything because they know that I am there to help their bodies and their mind and anything that they want. So they use us a lot. So this is my desk here, and then I have two people here. I'll go into a little bit more detail of that. You can see that there's curtains here as well. This is one area that we need to be able to close off completely. If somebody gets hurt, we want to make sure that we can have it closed so we can do what we need to do and we don't have 14 people coming in asking if everything's okay. When somebody's hurt, you want your privacy. And you don't want everyone kind of looking at you and taking pictures. Because that would be crazy. So, and I got this because we have people from all over the world that everyone loves to talk about where they've been on vacation, favorite places they've been. And a lot of people have planned vacations just from hearing stories from other people that have gone all over the world. So this is all the stuff that we have to do during a day. That's a lot of stuff. And even as long as I've been doing this, I still have to do laundry every day. It is what it is. We got to wash the towels. But we have to make sure we go to a doctor's appointments. We have to schedule things to make sure if things are broken or not. A lot of meetings. We do treatments. Group classes, all of these things that we have to do. There's always something that has to be planned for. So, in a typical day, we have 3 therapists in Japan. Every other show, for every other tour, normally it's just 2. But because Japan is such a long run, and like we talked about, there's so many shows, we do 3, and that makes life much, much easier. So we have an early, a middle, and a late shift. So the early person, they cover the first training of the day, because even if we have a show at 7 o'clock, we still will have practice and training. So our days will start sometimes at 10 o'clock. I know, right? I make that same face every time I have to go in so early. I'm like, what? Then they cover the early treatments, cover the first show, and then they will leave at the beginning of the second show. The middle person, they usually come in about 2 hours later. Continue any treatments. If there's a doctor's appointment, then they will go to that, because our doctor office is about an hour away. So that's going to be just their job for the day. And then they leave midway through the second show. And then finally, the late person, they arrive pretty much just before the first show, do treatments between, cover the late show, and then they send out the reports at the end of the day. So everybody has their little job, so it makes it good so that we don't have to work so hard and so long that we go crazy, because we don't want that. So for a typical day, one of the first things that I would do is determine, all right, are you able to do what you need to do? If you come in and say, oh, my ankle kind of hurts, I'm going to look at it to say, okay, well, can you do this? Can you do that? And then I will determine, based on what you normally do in the show, what I think you can or can't do. Sometimes the artists will say, no, I'm good, I can do it. But unlike a sport where you can play a game and then you have time to relax after, every day is the exact same for the audience. So we have to sometimes negotiate with them and say, well, I know you could probably do it, but let's maybe just give it one more day, and then we'll get them better. And because they trust me and my team, most of the time they agree with me. Sometimes they don't, and then we have an argument. But I always win. Undefeated. We will, like I said, we perform treatments on the artist. So the reason I put injury or prevention, so if somebody hurts themselves, then I expect that person to be in every day until they're better. Because they get paid. These artists are paid to do the beautiful things on stage that you get to see. So it's their job to get better so that they can do the things that they love. The different one, prevention, would be somebody is doing everything, but they might have a little bit of soreness. I can do everything, but I'm sore. Then we'll still treat them every day, but it's not as mandatory. It's just come as you please with that. Does that make sense? We have to document everything on a computer, and this is what makes things so long and sometimes a little boring. But because it's a big company, we always have to make sure that everything is written down. And then as we get closer to the show, we prepare them for the show. So sometimes they want a little bit of massage. They want to get stretched, or we do tape on them, anything like that. And then if they're coming back from an injury, I might watch their warm-up, just because I want to see how they look. And then I'm directly beside the stage for any high-risk act. So a high-risk act would be something of a chance of a fall or of somebody hitting each other. So and when you saw the picture of the whole stage, I am literally right beside the stage, so that if I see anything happen, I'm right there. And this is what this fun little case is. This is the stuff that you hope you never have to use, but you want to make sure it's there. This is anything in case there was ever an emergency. So we have things like oxygen and just a bag, a board if we want to remove somebody from the stage, all things that you don't need to really know what they are, but this is what is important for us to really be ready to go. What do I love about my position? I love to travel. So for me, I'm a runner. So I'm so excited that I've gotten a chance to run to the Hollywood sign in Los Angeles. I ran across the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And that's me in Times Square in New York City. Absolutely love it that I get to do this as part of my job. Another cool thing is it feels like you live in the city. Who's that guy? Well, that's me. The first day I was here, I ran to the Tokyo Tower. I've seen the Tokyo Tower in movies for my whole life, and that was one of the most exciting days. And I got to be here for the Sakura. It was so beautiful. It's so amazing that I feel like I'm a part of Japan's history. I love working with high-level athletes. That's one of the things that is so exciting to me, that they're so good at what they do and watching how amazing they are. And I also like that I don't know what's going to happen every day. You never know what's going to happen. And I get to meet so many people like you guys. This is such an honor for me to be here to speak to you guys. I would never get an opportunity to do this if I wasn't in this job. And I love the fact that I have to make decisions very quickly. If somebody gets hurt in the middle of a show, they can't just stop the show. Have you ever heard the saying, the show must go on? That is like a classic saying that it's not going to stop for anybody. So I need to be able to make decisions very fast. And I get to be creative with problems and ideas. That's one of the things that I really like. But there are tough parts too. Some people, when they hear what I do, they say, you must have the greatest job in the world. And I say, yeah, sometimes. And sometimes it's not so fun. One of the things that's tough is being away from family. This is my family. This picture was taken the last time I saw them, on Christmas Day. So this was in Vancouver before, so I haven't seen them since then, and I probably won't see them until November. It's tough to be away from family like that. This is my wife. I haven't seen her for a long time either. I think she still remembers what I look like. I send her pictures of myself every now and then just to make sure she doesn't forget. So those things are tough, but because she's never been to Japan, she came to visit once, you make those sacrifices sometimes because of the good things. The hours can be really, really long too sometimes because you don't leave until things are done. And it's working late at times. So sometimes I'll be at work until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And my day off is a day when everybody else is working. So I can't really talk to my friends or anything. So that can be a little bit difficult. Every time we go to a new city, I have to find a new doctor, have to find a new place to run, have to find a new supermarket. All those little things that we take for granted, it just become a little bit difficult. And you're always around the same people all the time. So if you have a brother or sister and you always see them, picture them for 5 years being in the same place. That can be a little bit difficult as well. So, Cirque is usually looking for specific people to do my job. So what are the things that they might look for? They're looking for people that have really good use with their hands. So we call that manual therapy. Being able to really fix somebody with your hands, that's really big. Strength and conditioning, that's like lifting weights and doing exercises. That's something that they really want as well, so that we can make sure the artists get back strong to get ready for the show. They usually want a minimum of 5 years of experience before they'll even consider you. Do you remember how many years I had? 11, that's right. So I was like, oh, 5 years, no problem. I'll even give you 6 extra years. So that really helped. Having emergency rescue skills. When something bad happens, they don't want somebody to panic. Because that would be bad. You want the person who's in charge of an emergency to be calm. And that's one of the reasons why they like me. Soft skills. Soft skills are something that if as a therapist, my hard skills would be, can I make an ankle be better? Soft skills are like my personality. So things like, can I adapt to if something changes? Can I do that? Am I passionate? Hopefully, in the way that I've been talking about this, you think that I'm a passionate person. Do you think so? Yeah. No? You don't think so? A team player. You have to be able to work well with others because you can't just do it all by yourself. You have to communicate really well because there's so many things that you have to make sure everyone is aware of. If you can't communicate well, you're going to struggle. You have to be willing to continuously want to learn. I always want to get better. I want anyone to ever think that there's not something that they can't continue to learn. And then finally, cultural differences. So, here's our final group partner question. How many countries do you think are made up of the artists, of the 57 artists that we have? How many countries? You have 30 seconds.
40.
Okay, here we go. Let's get some different people who haven't answered yet. Give me hands up. What do you think? How many? 47. Okay. Give me a couple more.
41.
41. Okay, we have 47, 41. Yes?
50.
50. Okay. You?
30.
30. Okay. You guys think a lot. How many? I'm sorry?
7 or 11.
7 or 11? You gotta pick one. I heard 11 was what you said first, right?
7.
7, changing your answer. Okay, one more. 35. Okay, you guys think there's a lot? So it's not that many, because we only have 57 artists.
0.
But it's not 0. Yeah, see, once I tricked you, now you're always going to think it's 0. So we have 16 countries. See, you should have stuck with 11, but you were close with. So 16 countries represented. So of those, so we've got one from Japan. So we've got Russia, Australia, Mongolia, Japan, Belarus, Croatia, Kazakhstan, Spain. Anyone know what this flag is?
No.
That's Taiwan.
Oh.
Taiwan, Great United Kingdom.
England.
That's right. United States. This is Colombia, Argentina, France, Ukraine, and good old Canada. So 16. So we have artists that speak different languages. So you have to be able to know that some people like things done differently just because where they're from. That's how things are different. But at the end of the day, of all the things, I still love what I do because it's just so much fun. So these are some of the acts that we have. So this is called Russian cradle. So this is where he holds her by his hands and he throws her in the air and catches her again. And that's his wife.
What?
Yeah, they're married. So these are our contortionists. So there's the hand I talked about. And look at that. There's 4 girls. 2 there, 1 here, and 1 there. And then we have this. This is called upside down world. So we have a hand balancer who builds up, and then somebody that goes from the ceiling and builds it upside down. That's crazy. And then we have this guy. So this, look how high he is. There's the stage here. This is called rolla bola. He's balancing on 7 cylinders. And then these are our acronet guys. And our fishy tails waving their butts. Pretty cool, huh? So, that's it. Thank you so much. Arigatou gozaimasu. Do you have any questions? They don't all speak English, but on tour, the universal language is English. So they're expected to be able to talk to us somewhat in English. So of those countries that I talked about, we have a couple of artists that only speak Spanish, but we have one of our wardrobe girls speaks Spanish, one of our stage managers speaks Spanish, and one of the artists who's been with the company for a long time speaks Spanish. So if we ever had an issue where we needed to converse with them, we could always have somebody brought in. And on the other side, we have some people that only speak Russian. But our head coach, he is Russian and speaks English, so we have all of those languages covered. Great question, though. Any other questions? And I included everything in there. I'm just so good. There's no questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you've seen the show how many times would you say?
I have seen the show about 1,700 times. 1,700 times.
So given that, are there any acts that when you still watch, it still amazes you? Or-
Yes. I would say the two acts. Every time I see the contortionists do what they do, I find that one of the most amazing things. To see them bend their bodies so quickly and so fluently, and then they're stacking, that is something that I find so impressive. The acronet, every time that they're that high in the air, it still makes my heart kind of beat a little bit, because I just don't want anything bad to happen. And it's just so amazing to see them go that high. But the areas, a lot of the things they do, they want you as the audience to be scared. And because I've seen it almost 2,000 times, I'm like, whatever. Seen it a million times. But when things don't always go right, then that kind of keeps me in the moment. Yes?
So what's the most common injury?
The most thing, that's a great question. So what I tell a lot of people is that you don't get to this high level if you fall all the time. Right? So what we see the most is usually an overuse injury. So like a low back, just because they're doing the same thing over and over again at such a high level, their back muscles will just get a little bit tight and tired because they're just trying to keep going. That's the thing that we deal with the most. Low back and neck and shoulders, because they're acting on stage, and these people are not actors. They are acrobats. So if you ask them to kind of play and on stage, sometimes they struggle with that a little bit. But it's funny that sometimes we'll have them injure themselves doing something as simple as just bending over and dancing. Because they're not used to doing that. They're used to jumping and being up in the air and stuff, and you ask them to do one little twirl and all of a sudden their neck hurts. So it's kind of silly like that, but those are the things that we see as most common. Yes?
Don't you get bored?
Do I get bored? I don't, because like I said, there's always something new that comes up. The same routine happens where the show is the same, but little things every day change, and little things are always different. And that's what kind of keeps me going. Like Chris had asked me about how many times I've seen the show. So the music plays for all the acts. If I close my eyes when the music is playing, I know exactly where they are in the show because I've seen it so many times. So if I hear something change musically, where maybe the song goes a little too long, because remember I said that they play live, they sing live. So if something is not right, the band will kind of play extra, and that makes me like, whoa, something's not right. Because it's like, I know exactly where we should be, and then I'm like, all right, somebody tell me what's going on. I want to know. Because I'm so used to seeing the same thing all the time. Anything else?
I have another question.
Chris, got another one.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the contortionists? Because you had told me about them before, and what I found interesting is kind of their background and how long they've been together.
Great thing. So we have 4 contortionists. So the oldest is 31. The youngest is 27. Okay? They have been together as a group of 4 for 21 years. So if you do the math, subtraction, the youngest started when she was 7. 7 years old. And they have been together performing for that long. And that's one of the reasons why they're 4 of the best in the world. Because they've worked together on their act, just getting better and better and better. But can you imagine working with somebody for that long? So they're like almost like 4 sisters. And they argue and they fight like sisters, but ultimately they love each other. But isn't that nuts? That's a long time to be together. Yeah?
Do you remember all their names?
Absolutely, and I can spell all their names. So the girl at the top of the pyramid, her last name is Tiznabueva. And if we go to the doctor and I say their name, they're like, it's Tiz, and I'm like, oh please, I'd like to hear your try. So they're very long Russian names, but because I've been with them for so long, I can spell and say all their names. And that's one of the reasons why I like to be with the show from the very beginning. That I learn everything about them. I know what they like. I know how they like to train, practice, everything. So that if I notice something about their training that looks a little off, they know that I really am genuinely interested in what is happening with their bodies. So that if I come to them and I say, you know what, it looks like maybe your back is bothering you a little bit because I watch you all the time. And they're like, yeah, it is a little bothering. All right, hey, let's do this. And they know that they can trust me that I'm going to try to make them better. Good question. Yes?
Can you do any tricks?
On this show, a couple of things. There's a lot of high-level stuff on this show that I can't really do some of it. But the artists are really good about trying to show me some stuff. I've been on the acronet before, which is really scary. So I've been on a trampoline before, and so the first time I went on there, because I wanted to see how it felt on ankles and knees and hips. In my mind, I felt like I was touching the ceiling. And they're like, you're like this high off the ground. And I was like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, you're just that high. Because it just feels like you're going, because when you have multiple people, and they were taking it easy on me. So that's one thing I've tried a little bit. I haven't tried any contortion, and I never will. On my last show, we had a thing called a Chinese pole, which is like a big pole that's rubberized that you can kind of climb and do some things. I used to train that a little bit because for me, I just love to learn how the body moves with different things. And anything that I can try to learn and somebody's willing to show me, I'm great. I'm a student like that. I would love to do it. But it's difficult because it took them 30 years to get that good. I'm not going to learn it like that. I wish. I could make more money. Did you have a question? Yep.
How did the show find the mustache cleaner lady people? What was the job description?
It wasn't so much like, hey, we're hiring mustache people. It was like wardrobe tech. So do you remember when I showed all the costumes that were hanging? So everybody has their jobs like in the early shift and the late shift, just like us for PMed. So sometimes it's making sure the costumes are dry and put in their loges. And then one section of what their job is clean the mustaches. So it's just a matter of this is what has to get done. It's part of the job. It's like cleaning the trash or cleaning a toilet. Nobody likes to do it, but it has to get done. So they play music to try to make it fun, and they just kind of dig through and get it done. Who's got another question?
I've got one.
Yeah.
This show was elsewhere before coming to Japan.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Did anything change for the shows to make it specific for the Japanese audience?
Absolutely not. It's exactly the same. The only thing they had to change was just the transition of bringing those towers in, which just extended the end of Acronet a little bit, which I think is a proof of how good the show is. If at some point they might say they're not really sure if people are going to like it, then they might have to make some small changes. But we were very fortunate that there was no changes that had to be made. Yes?
Where was the best tour you have been to?
Ooh, my favorite place. Is that what you mean? Like the place that I enjoyed?
Yeah.
The two that were really important to me were San Francisco and New York City. And the reason is because I'm from such a small town, like I said, I would watch movies of New York City and the Golden Gate Bridge. That to me was one of the coolest things that I ever got to do. Like to live in downtown Manhattan, I felt like I was in a TV show every day I would walk to work. That was really fun because it was long and there's so much to do there. But Tokyo is like creeping into the top 3 because I've been here long enough. I feel like I live here. I have a residence card. So I basically am from Japan. So I enjoy this because the more time you get to spend, the more things you get to do. I'm actually going to climb Mount Fujisan in 2 weeks. Can't wait. So excited. One thing that I didn't mention that some people will ask is, how do artists get hired for shows? That's one thing I didn't mention. So there's two kind of ways. One is YouTube. All these artists that do all these amazing things will post things on YouTube, and there is a department at that studio where their whole job is just to be on the internet and looking at YouTube of circus acts. So they're looking for the next best thing, and they'll say, oh, I like what you do. I want to buy your act. And that's what they'll do. Or they'll hold open calls, sometimes in Tokyo, sometimes London, England, in Las Vegas, New York, where they might bring a whole bunch of you, and you're going to say, all right, you're going to show me what you can do. You're going to show me what you can do. And if the company likes it, they will say, here's the ticket, which means that you're in the bank, in Cirque's bank, meaning that you are going to be working with a Cirque du Soleil show once they can find a show that whatever you do can fit. Does that make sense? Or if you happen to do a skill that another show that already exists needs somebody, then you might say, yep, we're ready for you right now. That's how that works.
So kind of along those same lines, you mentioned that you have hired extra artists for Tokyo in case people are injured and they can't do what they do?
Correct.
Does that mean, like, of those acts that you showed us, you know, the girl being flipped upside down, for
Yeah.
example, there are multiple people that can be in that position?
Well, we have 2 duos.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so we have, it's a husband and wife and an ex-husband and wife, but they still work together. So it's just 2 duos because they can't just interchange because a flyer and they're called a porter, the person that holds them. You can't interchange because it's just knowing your partner. So they do a rotation where 5 shows, one group duo does it, the other 5 shows, another duo does it. But with the acronet, because they learn different positions, those guys can rotate all through that. Then for contortion, we have 5 contortionists, but only 4 girls on stage at a time. So they have to learn 5 different versions of the act. Still doing the same skills, but one might just be in a different position. So that can be a little bit tough.
Any other questions?
Who wants to join the circus? No? No?
Curious, anyone who hasn't seen the show, has Chad's talk today made you want to go see the show? No? All right. Is there a plan for another show coming to Japan other than Kurios?
Yes, so from my understanding, almost every 2 or 3 years, Fuji gets a huge response. Like, Japan is one of the largest markets that Cirque has. Like, I think the smallest house we've had is maybe 95%. There's always people there. They love Cirque du Soleil. So usually every 2 years, they will come and start in Tokyo. So Fuji, they go to all the other shows, like the ones that I had shown, and they decide which ones they like. And if they think, yeah, I think that the people from Japan will like this, then they select that show. I was with, remember I said the first show, Amaluna, and Fuji came to see us in our first year. And I remember, because my partner who was working with me, she was from Osaka, so she spoke Japanese. She spoke to the Fuji people, and I said, oh, did they like it? And she said, nope, they hated it. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're not going to Japan then. Because if they don't like it, they're not going to take it. And they chose Totem instead. So that's why Totem was here. But our show has, I think, broken all of the records so far for attendance. And we're pretty excited about it because it's a very, very good show. And I don't say that just because I work with it. Yes?
Is the audience, the feel of the audience different per city?
Well, the Japan audience is completely different from a North American audience. So one of the things, and we prepared the artists, in North America, people can be really loud. And just like they talk a lot, and they're just like, they laugh out loud. And it's not the same here in Japan. People are very respectful and quiet. So the artists sometimes had a difficult time adjusting to when they would be finished and people were clapping, but the artists sometimes thought they didn't like it. They weren't clapping, they weren't loud. But at the end of the show, everybody was so excited and got really loud. But within our first week, the Japan crowd was yelling. And the people from Fuji had said, we've never seen this before. They were almost like a little scared. They're like, people are acting differently. And I was like, that's because we're amazing. You know, so it's been really good. So we were worried, and then the first couple shows, people weren't really sure, but then when you see something so exciting, sometimes you can't control it. And people would scream, and then they would almost be embarrassed because they're like, I can't believe I just screamed. But it was just so scary and so exciting, which is what they want Cirque to do. They want people just to feel like they're kids and that you're just not worried about showing your emotion. It's pretty exciting.
Any last questions from anyone? No? All right, well, if you did have something you wanted to ask Chad, he'll be hanging around here for a few minutes afterwards, so you can ask him personally. Let's all give him one last round of applause.